Florida has 8,436 miles of coastline, second only to Alaska. Now, dropping the boat in the water is all good and dandy, but to really soak it in, I love fishing from land. Driving up and down the coast, hopping from spot to spot. While fishing on a boat is significantly easier, on foot or paddling is the real way to immerse yourself in it. And this time of year, there is a lot going on. Millions of mullet are migrating down the coast, and hurricanes line wait out in the ocean. And we're going to try our best to chase down a giant fish along the coast. If I'm being honest, so much of this land-based fishing is because I've been trying to improve my health. Once I got married and had my first kid, I kind of let my health get away from me, and I don't ever want to let that happen again. So, if I can combine fishing, exercise, and a good adventure rolled up into one, I am just as happy as can be. So, while this week my goal is to catch a giant tarpon from land, I'm also going to try and get a good sweat in while we're at it. Alright, just finished working out, and I'm going to rig up real quick and then head over to a nearby spillway. There is a mega hurricane over in the Gulf right now, so we've been getting a ton of rain lately, so could be good. I saw several giant snook at the spillway, but after casting at them for nearly an hour, it was clear it wasn't going to happen here. So it was time to pack up, make a long drive, and go look for some mullet.
Starting bands of the hurricane are kind of swinging in and out right now, so we've just been sitting in the car. Meaning I and you guys have been sitting in the car for 45 minutes after driving an hour to come fish, and the storm just swept across, and so we're just chilling. It's Florida. It's the way it is. The way she goes in Florida. There's a lot of bait right here. Oh, giant tarpon! 100+ pounder, and that wing was in casting range behind me. Just skied out on him. There it goes again. I gotta turn the camera. Please eat again. I don't even care if I catch this fish. Just eat. Come on. Do it again. Skied out twice in the exact same spot. There is some giant tarpon around right now. I mean, and I think anything over maybe 60 pounds, I just don't stand a chance catching on this Tranks bait caster. But I have my big surf rod with a 6,000 reel on it in my car, but I would need to run like basically a mile, which is not tough at all, but it's whether or not I want to leave and risk leaving while these fish are exploding and chewing to go try to get a rod. It's a 9-foot surf rod, so I could sling it a mile, and I'm seeing a lot of tarpon. We might have to do it, man. I don't know. Oh, another giant. Anytime I move the camera, they jump the opposite direction. Okay, we're gonna do it.
Wow, that's real great, fella. Hey, exciting news. We have Lost Sun hats right here. If you don't know what Lost Sun is, it's just a brand that my wife and I basically have started to drop merchandise and stuff like that for the channel. There's a few Lost Sun shirts left, but we have a very, very limited run of hats right here. There will be only 50 of them. Yours won't have salt stains and sweat stains. I've been wearing the heck out of mine over the past couple months. You've probably seen it in videos here and there. It's the hat I'm wearing in this video. If you want to support the channel, this is one of the best ways that you can. I'll leave a link down below where you go to Lost Sun and go pick up a hat, pick up a shirt, pick up whatever. Every single package is gonna be hand packed and delivered by my wife and myself. It would mean the world to me if you picked one up. There's less than 50 of them, so they're gonna go quick. So if you want one, go down below, get one, and then come back and watch the video. Or finish the video, and then go get a hat. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Biggest reason ever to get in good shape now that, you know, mile there and back to the car doesn't seem like a daunting task. It seems like, all right, let's take 7 minutes and go get our stuff. We're back. Who'd have guessed that no one stole my stuff in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a hurricane? Never be too careful.
Abnormal weather can make the fish act bizarre. Thousands of mullet flooded the flats around the pier I was fishing off of, and tarpon and snook were feeding, but it felt like my lure was simply getting lost in the sea of mullet. The storm was finally catching up to me, so it was time to abandon ship with nothing to show. I left frustrated, but felt extremely motivated for the days ahead. With the hurricane looming on the west coast of Florida, I decided to take the day to build a lure specifically for fishing during the mullet run. The rough shape of a mullet right now, and we're gonna start sanding it down to make it a little rounder and not so blocky. We're just grinding away on sanding this thing down so it's super, super smooth. Later that afternoon, after the polyurethane had cured, it was time to add my through wire to the bait, which I probably should have done before putting on the polyurethane, but I have no idea what I'm doing, so we're just gonna roll with it. Not gonna lie, we're getting something pretty tasty going on here. Got a belly weight in there, it's a 1 ounce tungsten lead in there, so it's kind of gonna be like a top water, and more of like a stick bait that I think I'm just gonna rip across the top really, really fast. Starting off with a white base all the way around here, and we're gonna start fleshing out the mullet tone, like a smoke gray on the back and a little bit along the sides here, kind of all over, just adding that kind of faint grayish color that a mullet has. And then we're gonna move on to a scale pattern. The scales on this are so faint you almost can't see them on the camera, just a tiny bit, but I like the color that we have so much right now that I'm not gonna add anything else to it, and we're just gonna clear coat it. Like, I'm afraid if I try to add a harder scale detail that I'm gonna lose the color, because that is one of the best mullet colored baits I have ever seen. I honestly had a hard time sleeping last night. I'm just stoked to get out and chase some tarpon today. Also, a company called Evolution Outdoors sent me like a ton of tackle storage gear, and I'm pretty fired up about it. But we got a pretty long drive this morning, so I'm gonna finish getting organized and we gotta hit the road. I've found that fishing, and land-based fishing in particular, either requires an immense amount of patience or the total lack thereof. You have to decide if you want to sit at one spot for hours and just wait for the fish to arrive and start feeding, or be totally malleable and jump from location to location until you find fish that are already feeding. So I decided to start the morning in the area where just a few days prior, mullet and tarpon were flush, but now it was a total ghost town. So now, the hunt begins again.
Finding bait everywhere, but nothing is really eating it. So we gotta just keep moving until we find bait that is getting crushed.
What up, stud?
What's up, dude? How are you?
Good.
I met up with my buddy Eli and we started covering ground. After walking a couple miles, it was clear the fish weren't here, so it was on to the next beach. This was now my 5th spot of the day. I've driven over 75 miles and walked around 5 miles to this point, but we have finally found the bait, and hungry game fish were there feeding on them.
I'm gonna start running. We've made it to the next beach, and finally we have a pod of mullet coming down the surf. I got the homemade plug tied on. I think Eli's gonna snag a mullet. Let's see if we can make something great happen. Oh, there's blow up. They're going. They're going, they're going, they're going. Homemade plug deployed. I just snagged more. Oh my gosh, tarpon eating behind me. Holy cow. Here comes the tarpon right now. That's another shark. A lot of sharks in here. Oh, come on. Oh, that's a freaking shark just crushed me. Oh boy, that's a shark on the homemade plug. Oh boy, I think that looked like about a 50 pound shark. The shark, yeah, look at that. Watch it turn its head and just crush my plug. Spinner or black tip on the homemade plug, and I see like a 120 pound tarpon out there, but the shark's going airborne on me. Oh, so many sharks. I mean, there's tarpon out here that make the shark look like a guppy. I'm gonna try to hit the shark pretty hard, just because there's tarpon around, but he's got my homemade plug stuck in his mouth. I'd be a little disappointed if he breaks off. Let's see if we can get this guy unhooked. My plug is nowhere to be found. I don't even know how this fish is still hooked. I literally cannot even see my plug in the shark's mouth.
I tried to hold the shark tight while Eli ran over to tail grab it, but the way I moved the rod, the line
It
came
broke
right
off
across
right
his
there.
teeth and cut. and unfortunately the shark was able to wiggle back in the surf. I hate leaving a lure in a fish's mouth, and it was kind of poorly done by me the way I tried to get that shark on land.
If he's going, it's fine. Darn. The plug was hooked.
Save the plug?
I know. I just hate leaving something in a fish's mouth like that, but that was a homemade wooden plug.
As I was trying to decide what to put on next after being broken off, I looked up and Eli's mullet got crushed. Pretty quickly though, we realized that it was just another shark in the surf. There was a lot of them around.
Another shark. Look at that big jack right there. Oh my gosh. Eli, start grabbing them. Got Eli bait. This is insane. Sharks cutting everywhere on these fish right now. Oh God, I think that the jack hit it right when it landed. Sweet Mama, sweet Mary Magdalene. Oh, it just broke a tarpon off right there. That was a tarpon, man. Yeah, like instantly.
I retied after breaking off that tarpon, and in hindsight realized that the fish that hit before was most likely a bluefish or a small spinner shark that probably put a nick in my line. So the second that giant tarpon ate and I set the hook, my line snapped.
This is why you get in good shape, Eli. Mullet have reached the inlet. I don't know if they're gonna sit here and pile up in this little basin, or they're just gonna move through the inlet, but if they pile up in here, this could be a buzzsaw, man.
The mullet piled up into the backside of the jetty, and I was prepared for an absolute onslaught, but instead, the exact opposite happened. The tarpon and shark ceased fire on the mullet. However, an older man on the jetty did hook up with a fish, and I ran over to help.
You want any help, sir?
Yeah.
I'll see if I can hop down there so you can stay tight on it. I'll skip down there so you can try to keep tension on it. We'll see where I can get to. Nice one. He might be close. I was looking. Tape. I looked over and I was like, you know what? That might be a slot. I'm gonna guess it's gonna go 33, but stuck back there. Pinch in.
Yep.
32 and a half. Want me to run them back down for you? Or you gotta release? That's smarter than what I was gonna do.
With about 2 hours till sunset, I was feeling exhausted, but still hopeful. I've been walking and driving around since 6 a.m., and now all the other fishermen around me had called it, and I was alone, but determined to make it happen.
I lost my pliers, so we're gonna use my car keys. There's a little tool I have on my car keys that's a bottle opener to cut my line. Tie something else on. Okay. I don't know if I'm seeing things or what, but I feel like I saw something in the surf. I definitely did, because I just got blown up on. Eat it. Eat it. Oh, this is where I need the 100-pound. Oh, biggie. Something's on it. This is where I need that 100-pound tarpon to skyrocket this. Oh my gee. Oh, tarpon. Not a big one, but what the heck? On the spook. That is not what I thought was chasing. I thought it was just some little jack, so I was kind of just screwing around. Oh mama. All right, it ain't my 100-pounder I was just talking about, but what a treat. Let's see how long this stays hooked. Small tarpon and treble hooks do not mix. Hard to keep a small tarpon pinned. I mean, he's not tiny, definitely not tiny, but not like those 100-pounders we were watching eat earlier. Super cool. Here he comes. There's something following him. I don't know if it's a shark. I don't know if it's more tarpon, but we're gonna crank on this fish pretty freaking hard. I don't want to get this thing eaten by a shark. All right, we're clean, I think. He's right here in the trough. Beauty. Beauty, mate. That was a school of jackballing him. All right. Make you feel slightly better. We're gonna try something risky. Take my backpack off. Beauty. All right, let's see if we can land this fish. He's not a giant by any means, but crazy. Oh. There's like 50 little tiny jack crevalle following him right now. It's pretty funny. We gotta let him kind of ride him in the wave a little bit here. It's a thick fish, actually. All right. Beautiful. How great is that? Okay. Reel completely fell in the sand, whatever. I don't care. We got a tarpon. We'll go get a good release on this fella. Oh my, giant shark right there. Dude. Okay. Boom! We got a tarpon. Not nearly as big as I was hoping, but we got one. Tarpon on the top water. Who would have guessed? Not me. Oh man, fish got crushed again. That's gotta be a small jack. I see a school of bait way out to my right, but man, the fish are chewing the top plug. But I need to crank this guy in because I just saw, right as I released that tarpon, saw like a 7-8 foot bull shark cruising the surf. I don't feel like losing this plug. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Get going, fella. Oh my gosh, that literally hit the water. I didn't even twitch it and something ate it. It's gotta be a mediocre sized jack. But my fear is he is very far out there and we are in shark country right now. The fish are fired up. It's crazy, the mullet are gone. Like I don't have a pot of mullet around me right now. And so I'm not seeing those big jumbo tarpon, but it's like the aftermath almost of that mullet pod coming through just has everything so fired up. Hi-ho, silver dollar. is. But it feels like, man, if I just get it on a certain distance away from the beach, it's like instantaneous. Gets eaten. All right, it's popped off. It's good because, oh gosh, that was a giant. I think that's a shark, probably. My spook popped off that jack. Ugh. Nice. It literally, a shark ate my spook while it was sitting still. Or that shark ate my jack and slacklined it, but I don't think it did that. Oh, brother. I haven't seen a jump either, which makes me think it might be a bull, which is a whole different dilemma than hooking into a black tip or a spinner. It's coming at me super fast. It must be hooked well if it hasn't cut me off yet. We're gonna stick this fish pretty freaking hard. A big head shake right there. Who knows, maybe I'm mistaken. This is actually like a 45-pound jack crevalle. I've been wrong before. I would be much happier with that than if it's a 70-pound spinner or black tip. Man, please don't be a shark. But that head shake says freaking shark written all over it. Oh, that felt bad. I think we're gonna break off here in a second. Something felt crunchy and crispy there. It's a heavy fish. Oh, I think I saw a tarpon eat too. I'm stuck into a, yes, there it is, the shark. I don't have pliers anymore because my pliers got lost. This one's much bigger than the one from earlier, actually. This thing is T-boned that spook too. It's got another line sticking off it too. What are the odds you have pliers on you? Okay, that would be awesome. Because my pliers fell out of my backpack. I can grab the hooks out if you want. I won't make you do that if you want to hold the rod.
You got another hook in his tail.
I saw that. Well, let's see how this goes here. Hold that as tight as you can, I suppose. I know. Oh, oy. Oh. 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 It's a good time for a hamstring cramp right there. Oh, okay.
You can just grab him further.
It's so close. Good work, man. That angle, I could not get that. No, absolutely not. Oh, he got that other line stuck in him. All right. Well, we helped him out, got a second line off him. Oh, that was a lifesaver because my pliers fell out somewhere along the beach and someone must have picked them up. So it was great timing on that. Thanks, man.
All right.
Oh yeah, I've been walking for 10 hours today, and so I was sitting on top of him. That wave hit, and I flexed to hold him down. My leg because it started tightening up. Thanks for saving me right there, man.
Good luck, man.
Well, we at least did that shark a favor and removed, 30 yards of line off of him and got a hook out of him. That hook, when I ripped it out of it, struck straight back and stabbed me in the stomach. Another fish. And he's like straight up every single cast on a certain line. It's crazy.
Over 12 hours spent chasing mullet up and down the beach, and I was absolutely exhausted.
Ripe sea grapes rule. They're so good. They gotta be purple. I need to go get in the water. I am toasted.
I had a brief moment of disappointment not having had a real chance of a giant tarpon because that was my goal, but life doesn't get much sweeter than spending the entire day chasing giant fish up and down the coast. The following morning, I was still determined, and I went back to where I ended the night before, but it was a ghost town now, not a mullet in sight. So, it's time to drive. I hopped from beach to beach. I drove miles upon miles up and down the coast looking for bait. Finally, after 2 hours of checking different beaches, I found them. And turns out, I was a little late to the party, with several boats and fishermen already there.
I have covered a ridiculous amount of distance. Probably 2 or so miles from where I parked. And I can almost see the end of this school of bait. And the idea is I'm gonna get to the end of it because every single one of these mullet is gonna be swimming south. That's the whole shtick, that's the whole deal. They're all swimming south. So I'm gonna run south of all of them. This entire 2-mile long chain of mullet will then have to swim past me. And if I want to, if the big tarpon are there, we're just watching them air out on some bait, I can just walk along with them instead of chasing. We're almost there. There's the biggie. I see multiple tarpon right here. The run was worth it already. They're everywhere down here. Found all the fish. Holy smokes.
Hundreds of thousands of mullets swam in the surf with tarpon surging beneath them. I have spent days chasing these fish, and then I finally got bit. And I was wiping sweat out of my eyes, and I missed it.
Oh my gosh, that hit my bait right there. It literally hit my lure for half a second. I never even set the hook into it. It hit and then jumped instantly.
About 5 minutes after missing that tarpon, the young guys fishing with live mullet in the boat next to me hooked up on a medium-sized tarpon. Then something strange happened. A boat from over half a mile came running on full plane through the entire school of fish, right up to them trying to film them, and the kids actually had to wave this boat off because they were getting so close to them that they thought they would cut their line off. And once that boat had ran through the entire school and the tarpon those kids caught had jumped for 10-15 minutes, the bite had finally died.
I'm so hot, I need to get into the water. There's bait. We got bait. Come on, baby. Oh. Wow. There's bait everywhere. Where are the fish? All right, let's go. We gotta find some fish that are blowing up. There is miles upon miles of bait right here. but haven't seen any tarpon or sharks or jacks getting on them. So we're just gonna take a heavy jog down the beach, carrying our backpack full of camera gear and lures, carrying a heavy surf rod until we find the tarpon. As far as I can see, there's mullet everywhere. But we gotta find the big ones. We're gonna put in the effort. All right, have my foot on the gas. I think we probably, I don't know, 1.5 miles, 2 miles, nothing crazy, but in the sand in a backpack, that is tough. And as I stopped, took a breath, looked out, pretty sure I see some tarpon off the beach a little bit here. I don't know if any of them are in casting distance yet, but I think what's happening is the tarpon are kind of waking up, moving down the beach. And as the sun picks up, I think we'll have a brief window of like an hour or two where the bite's just gonna be ridiculous. At least that's what I'm hoping.
I ran 2.5 miles down the beach and the mullet felt endless. But today was different. All the tarpon were hanging several hundred yards off the beach and just occasionally rolling. I spent 5 hours chasing the mullet around and had a single 5-minute window where the tarpon fed.
Big tarpon right here. Multiple tarpon just rolled right here. Come on. Oh. You can see a fish right here. Look at it. Ready? We're gonna get eaten right here. Oh, I'm under.
And just like that, once they were done, they moved back out deep. Unfortunately, after today, the weather began to take a turn for the worst as Hurricane Milton started forming in the Gulf. And just like that, our chance for a giant tarpon in the surf was washed away.
Category 5 hurricane is sitting out in the Gulf of Mexico right now on its way to Florida. In about 2 days, it'll make landfall. And so we're gonna try to make the best out of a bad situation and try to capitalize on some good fishing before that happens. In the meantime, also prep for a possibly historic hurricane.
With a hurricane hitting the west coast the week prior, and now a second one forming in the Gulf, water was on the rise. In preparation for the oncoming rain, the water management was releasing as much water as possible out of the canals that transport water through Florida in hopes to help reduce the potential flooding.
Right there, little snook, right on the edge. He's right in the current. Not a big one, but good sign. Extremely healthy fat snook right there. Oh man, like this thing has got a belly full of food. It is totally gorged out and big old bluegill lure hanging out of its mouth. Not the size fish we're looking for, but a good sign.
Florida doesn't really have beautiful waterfalls or powerful flowing creeks, so we fill that void here. And even though spillways like this are man-made, there is something beautiful about them. I seem to always find my way back to them. With my surf fishing dreams dead due to the rising winds from the hurricanes, I was really hoping to find a giant in the flowing current of the canals. I spent the rest of the day covering more ground. I think I easily drove over 300 miles and walked over 25 miles the past week chasing after fish. Although, to be honest, I was not as successful as I would have hoped. Any time spent outdoors adventuring is just a proper blessing. After a full day of hopping spillway, with not much luck, it was time to go home and prepare for the hurricane. I know at this point the hurricane was a couple weeks ago, but I hope all of you out there are doing okay. My family got blessed and fared extremely well, so I get to just on to the next adventure.
You're not gonna like that.